Hey, thank you all for being here. My name is Allison Schumacher. I am the Director of Academic Alchemy for the Davinci Center for Innovation here at VCU. And we're just presenting today, give some information on some classes we're offering over the summer and this fall to all graduate students at the institution. And we're so lucky to be joined by some of our amazing faculty, some new, some established over time, to answer any questions and give a brief on what their courses are. But I think we can kind of get started just having our faculty introduce themselves. And I'll kind of kick it off. Just, give us a little bit background on who you are and which course you will be teaching. And then we will launch into the slides and we give a little bit more detail about the courses. But I'm Allison Schumacher. Like I said, I am in charge of our academic programs at Davinci and for a lot of our corporate outreach and those partnerships. That's about the gist of it. That's in a nutshell. Erin, would you like to introduce yourself next?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, I'm Erin Brooks. I am a strategist of web and mobile applications at RTS Labs. I'm super excited to be teaching the user experience, UX UI course. And yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing more about it.
Thank you, Erin. Chris.
Hi, Chris Gatewood. I'm a lawyer and startup founder here in town and been working for 20 years with different mixes of large and small companies. The common thread of pretty much all the projects being that they're trying to take some kind of innovation, some kind of invention, and turn it into a viable product and a viable enterprise. And there's some things you ought to know along the way when doing that, like basically identification and protection of intellectual property, and then some very basic corporate formation and entity awareness as well.
Excellent, thank you. Michael.
Hi, I'm Mike Visdos. I'm the Scrum Master in Residence at VCU. I have been working with the center for many years, and I'm a local entrepreneur and run certified Scrum training and help people with agile and product development.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you all for being here and your time. So I'm going to run through just a few slides of some things for people who maybe don't know who the Davinci Center is and what we do. Just little quick information on that to give a background, and then I'll jump right into some of the classes, discussing them from faculty who couldn't join us tonight, but have given me a brief. So hopefully I'll be able to answer any questions you have. For our attendees, if you have questions, please drop them in the chat or feel free to unmute and interrupt me. We love questions, and this is meant to be pretty casual and just a conversation. And I'm sure the questions you have are questions that others will have either here or who are watching the recording. And so we usually find those to be pretty helpful. So please feel free to interrupt or populate the chat. I, as a presenter, cannot see the chat at the moment. So actually, I'm going to ask Stephanie, who's a member of my team, if you see anything there, will you interrupt me? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so moving here. So for those who don't know who the Davinci Center is, we are this very unique collaborative model at VCU. So we're actually partnered with the schools of arts and business and the colleges of engineering and humanities and sciences, and recently have brought in medical students into our programs as well. And basically, we do innovation and entrepreneurship. So on the product innovation side of things, we bring in problems from industry and have our cross-disciplinary teams work on those. On the entrepreneurship or the venture creation side, we take problems from students and help students launch their own businesses. And we do this through academic programs, both at the undergrad and the graduate level, and we do it through experiential programs that are open to everyone at the university. So we do serve Davinci students as a specific group of people who apply and interview to get into our programs. We also serve the entire institution and all students, things like our pre-accelerator program, which is running right now and will end in demo day come April 30th. That is open to any student at the institution who wants to be able to start their own business. And lots of things like that, sprints and design jams and lots of other stuff. So there's always a way to engage with Davinci, but bringing these two ideas together, we realized if we are going to serve the larger institution, and we are teaching subject matter in our first summer semester for our Master of Product Innovation program, which is where all these courses we're about to talk about, it's where they live. Why not open those things up? There are lots of curious and creative people at this institution who may want to learn more about these subjects, but may not have a background in that. And a lot of our master's students come in at that exact same level. And so we figured, let's just open these things up and see who might be interested in engaging with us and our faculty over these summer courses. So that's kind of the gist of who we are and the context here. But everything is based in the Master of Product Innovation, but you certainly don't have to be interested in pursuing product innovation or even entrepreneurship to get a lot out of these classes. I imagine people who engage in research will find a lot of these tools and tricks as that are being taught in these classes, a lot of this content to be super valuable and maybe help you think about the world in a very different way. So the gist of our summer and fall courses, we have, let's see, I think 5 that are being offered this summer, and then 2 that will be offered in the fall, one of them consistent across both of those semesters. So the topics you can see listed here, these are all open graduate topics. So all these classes we're going to talk about today can be taken by any student who is enrolled in a master's program or as a non-degree seeking student who is eligible for master's level education. They all are 600 level classes. So undergraduates, there's a rather difficult process to get undergraduates into these classes. But if you are an undergraduate and you do have a question and interest, you can reach out to me directly and I can help you navigate that space. So the perks and requirements of this, most of our classes are offered after 5 p.m. There are a couple exceptions to that rule, but we'll talk about that throughout this process, throughout this presentation. And the instructors are all coming from industry. You've heard our introductions. These are people who do this stuff in the real world. And we are lucky enough in the Davinci Center to be honored for them to take their time to come teach what they know about working in the world in an actual program. And so you will be able to apply what you learn out into the real world as well. And the only thing you need to have is graduate student status, but really no prior experience is necessary. We just need curiosity, passion, and motivation. But we welcome beginners in these particular courses. Okay, so the first one being Intro to Innovation, Design Thinking, and Change Management. This is a course that is currently being written. It will be taught by our executive director, Garrett Westlake, who wasn't able to be here this evening. But this course will become a permanent staple in the Davinci Center Master of Product Innovation. This is just our first iteration, so we're running it as a topics course. This will be taught every single semester, so know that if you missed the opportunity this summer, it will be offered in fall and spring semesters as well. We just plan to offer it across the board and will most likely become part of some of our partnership programs. But this particular course is meant to give you some certifications. So there's 3 internationally recognized certifications through Experience Point that students will earn by going through this class. They will get lots of hands-on and learning, but it will be fully virtual. That is something that we're trying to do across all of our summer courses, is have them be virtual, so students who don't live here or maybe have moved back home because of COVID or are already attending online programs can also participate in these, and to just keep things a little bit safer until vaccines have more of an opportunity to be spread. So this is meant to be very hands-on. We're talking to corporate sponsors about bringing projects forward, some really interesting ones that could have some impact in our community or impact in our ecosystem. Can't reveal those quite yet, but all of this will be applied education. So everything you do will have something that you should be able to apply to the real world. Everything will be cross-disciplinary. We accept students from all different backgrounds in the MPI, so there will be MPI students. And then we already have a lot of interest from students who are outside of the standard arts, business, and engineering humanities backgrounds. This one is already on the schedule for the summer to be taught as an 8-week class. You can see the dates and the time there. So this one does go from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. on Mondays, but the plus 2 days is an important caveat to where that doesn't apply to the after hours timing. So there is a training on change management, which I have to say is one of the most fun trainings I've ever gone through. I felt like I was on a game show. That does take 2 full 8-hour days. I guarantee you will love it. It is so much fun to go through, but it does take a full 2 days. So there will be 2 days in the middle of a week that we will ask for your full time for 8 hours. There will be breaks and that kind of stuff built in, so you're not expected to give up your lunch period to do this training. but it does require that as part of this course. And then in the fall semester, we will offer it as a full fall course. So it's the full 15 weeks, and it will meet every Friday for 2 hours and 40 minutes. So that most likely will be something consistent that we keep in the summer. But this one really trying to get to the heart of innovation, the heart of design thinking, so that you truly know that process. And if you're unfamiliar with that term, design thinking or human-centered design, I commonly describe it as the scientific process plus empathy. So if you've ever gone through a science class and had to formulate a hypothesis and create potential solutions to be able to test, and then gather data and let that come back into the cycle of how you develop, through a scientific process, you just put empathy at the beginning of it. So you try to understand your users prior to make sure you're working on the right problem, and then move through the cycle of how do you ideate around that idea to create those testable solutions, and then use data to inform the work you do in the future. And the change management, very much about the training, how it's more on the business end of things than it is on maybe like the social innovation things, where you really are talking about how do you create change within an institution or an organization? How do you get buy-in from your stakeholders to where they want to back the ideas that you have, and those types of things. The next class, this one is going to be taught by an industry professional as well. User-based research. So this is really about how do you get into the heads and hearts of your users. So, if you're talking about needing to get to users through using empathy in the design process, how do you do that? How do you actually find the users that you need to talk to in order to empathize with them? How do you do primary and secondary research? So the primary research being directly talking to users, but the secondary research, how do you find what users want without them necessarily telling you straight out? There's a lot of discrepancy between what people tell you and how they actually behave too. So then how do we explore that world? So this one is a 2-week course, just offered at the beginning of June, fully online, really talking about strategic thinking and how do you do research in order to better understand your users. All right. And this, I get to hand it off now. I've made it through my first 3 slides. So Erin's going to talk to you about her class a bit.
Yes, I'm super excited about our 2-week session, July 26th through August 6th, on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the evenings, to really explore user experience and user interface design. What I'm really excited to bring to the table is I've had a chance to build over 50 web and mobile applications over time, and we get a chance to, I've had just really great opportunity to help startups or other companies improve upon their products. Can you flip to the next?
Oh, I'm good. Next. Oh, sorry.
Thanks. So what I wanted to bring to this course this summer is I want you to not be afraid to be a designer. So whether you're a part of an innovation team, if you're actually in there doing the designs, if you need to be there to help understand how do we get people to use our product? How do we get them to use it more effectively? How do we get them to buy our product? How do we get them to get started to have a great onboarding? This takes a lot of design thinking, what Allison spoke to. And so we're going to stand in the shoes of these users, often ourselves. We're going to come with pen and paper and Sharpies and be able to work together to help solve problems that we see online so that we can be a better participant in that process of creating. The other piece that happens with user experience and user interface design is we go for what's beautiful and exciting, but we really have to understand what's functional and what do we have to do to actually build this thing and get it to market. So in addition to the creative fun, we'll be problem solving all of the things that drive us crazy online and in our mobile apps that need to be improved. We're also going to talk about how do you organize around the work to be done? How do you work as a collaborator, whether you're someone with a really big idea or you're someone who needs to be a developer or you're someone who's that designer trying to make everybody happy and balance everybody's goals. How do we work together to start small and iterate so we can get something into the market? So super excited to see you all in July and August.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Erin. Your enthusiasm is inspiring here. All right, I think we have Chris. I think you are next.
Okay, great. So this is going to be a course that'll be an intro into getting yourself further down what you can think of as a funnel. A lot of people have very good innovative ideas, a lot of people. I'm willing to say most of, probably all of us on the Zoom call, it could be something really big over time. A lot fewer people manage to bring that product or project to bear in some sort of finished form, finished in quotes, because you're going to keep iterating and innovating, but in some kind of form. Still fewer people manage to turn that into a company, a viable startup, a protected product that they can do as their work for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, a career, whatever it is. Doesn't need to be a walk-off home run, Silicon Valley style $1 billion exit. I'm not talking about that. Those are fun, but they're rare. What I mean is turning innovation into an enterprise. And a lot of the way that happens is you've got to have your eyes tuned to the sorts of things that can be identified, around which you can build a fence and which you can protect. And in this space of innovation, very much of that is under the different rubrics of intellectual property. There's certain 3, 4-ish kinds that we'll go over. And how do you know them when you see them? Which one are we really talking about? And what are we supposed to do? This is not a law school course. It's not intended to be. If you want to do that, that's great. There's lots of law schools love to hear from you. This is not that. This is issue spotting for innovators. This is making sure that you're paying attention and that you keep your eye on the ball so that your innovation project, your innovation hobby, whatever it is, if you mess around and build something cool, you can make something out of it in terms of a business enterprise that can support you and your team for a long time if the market accepts it. That's the intellectual property part of it. Things we can protect, the deliverables of innovation. The other part of it is going to be some basic, again, not a law school course, but just basic heads up, context, and issue spotting for you that you can have around how do we start not just a project, not just a team, but a company. How does that work in day 1, year 1, year 2, year 5? And what if somebody with money hears about it and wants to help? We would raise investment in different ways over different seasons of the company and in different amounts. And so these are things that my law partner and I work with every day. And I've also started a couple of companies. Some of them have survived and make a little bit of money. Some of them don't, and we had to throw them overboard. So through that, I've learned some things along the way as a founder or co-founder, which has been interesting to me alongside my client work. So that's the deal. We're going to be 3 weeks. We're going to be Tuesday and Thursday evenings, May 31st through June 18th. Yeah, so I'll be there, all virtual, which I think maybe all these are, Allison. But at least as far as I know, these will be. So it makes it easy for anybody to participate from anywhere. Love to have you.
Excellent. Thank you. Wow. Talk about practical experience, being able to, to get straight out of a classroom. That is fantastic. Thank you so much. Michael, I believe you are up next.
Ooh. So this is really wraps around a framework to help actually deliver all of the things that Erin and Chris and Allison have talked about so far. There's this thing called Scrum that is one of these agile frameworks that we're going to go over in the class over the 4 nights and get you certified as what's called a Scrum Master. And really what that gives you is some industry credentials and an overview of how do you manage projects and really get the innovation out that you're all learning during these courses in the real world. So great experience. It's totally interactive. And again, it's going to be really relevant to the other things that you're learning too.
I have personally gone through this course and I highly recommend it. It's changed the way I teach. It's changed the way that I work with my team. It even changes the way that I've done home renovations. So very much a practical experience to go through that can help you in far more things than just the education that you're receiving at VCU. Excellent. Thank you. And do we have Ben Lewis on? We do. Ben, thank you so much for being here. We have yours up next. So this being a fall course. Yep.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for having me. And I'm happy to be here. So this prototyping course is set up sort of like a self-help support group where we'll be facilitating the 6 essential pieces of a successful prototype, and talking through those as a group together. So you'll be getting help from me and the other people in this class, and we'll talk about the 6 major areas that can contribute to your successful prototyping experience. And mostly, this is an opportunity to encourage you to already get started. By the end of this course, you will have enough information that you absolutely should get started on whatever you're thinking about bringing forward into the world. So as far as the skills that are learned, this is sort of a design thinking, human-centered design approach to testing very small problems that you need to understand the answer to before you can lock down things like funding or production, or even maybe a team of people that are really passionate about helping you move your idea forward. So this is a fall course that's going to be happening on Mondays and Wednesdays from 10:30 to 12:20, August to October. So that's just the first half of the semester. The goal is to get you on the ground, hit the ground running, so that your thesis or larger class or project, or even personal entrepreneurship or otherwise project can get some traction and get moving forward. I know starting is hard. That's why we're here, so we can all start together. So appreciate it.
Thank you, Ben. Ben, I know we've had some previous questions about your class, and so I wanted to interject that here. So would you recommend that someone has an idea when they sign up for this class, or something that they would specifically want to work on?
So I think this is as a framework class, it's really a good idea for, it's really helps me moving forward on anything where I don't know where to start. And so as it can be helpful in that mode, you don't have to have a project that you're really passionate about working on when you're coming into the class, but you will have to decide during the first class what you're going to focus this project on for the class period. And in the past, we had somebody who just wanted to learn how to 3D print functional roller skates, and that was probably a very loose interpretation of a project that we would normally focus on. But she learned the framework, and she got a lot out of the course, and was able to provide and receive a lot of feedback from the other people going through it with her. So that is to say that if you don't have a project in mind, don't be intimidated. Just come in with an open mind and an idea of anything that bugs you, and we'll find something you can kind of focus on for the rest of the mini-semester.
That sounds great. Ben, one more thing for you. Since we had you join a little bit late, could you give a little bit of your background and just talk about a little bit of who you are and maybe your business?
Thank you so much. So my name is Ben. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, where my wife and I have been running a small business for the past 3 years. A big part of that process has been trying to find out why we have a small business and what our community is engaging with. And so we've made a lot of moves into new areas. We've done a lot of different work in sourcing local products, sourcing materials, consulting with larger companies. And so as far as being comfortable in a fuzzy front end, man, let me tell you, I'm living it every day of my life. And once you kind of understand what's going around in that fog of nothingness, you can become really confident and move forward. So if you're the type of person who feels like that level of unknown just would be nails on a chalkboard for you, I would love to get you into this course to kind of turn down that anxiety. My background is in industrial design, and then I have a master's in product development that was kind of focused on engineering and business. And so I think of myself as a very dangerous generalist who can speak business, can speak engineering, can speak design, but mostly just loves stuff that hasn't been done before. That's kind of my sweet spot. So is that helpful for everybody? That was not a traditional intro, I feel like. But.
Super helpful. And actually, I want to expand the first question that I asked Ben to the other faculty in terms of, what do you think the students need to have to successfully, enter your class, or what are the expectations that you might have for students that are coming in? Erin, would you mind if we start with you?
Sure. I think I think to come into the UX UI class, I think a really good open mind, and also be thinking about the types of challenges that you face in digital products today, particularly if you are interested in developing a product that needs some form of a digital experience to go along with it to get it to market. I think from a skill set perspective, I always try and remind folks that we are all designers and that we are all users of the tools, right? And so everybody can learn and contribute, and don't feel like you have to have a design eye. A lot of the time that we're going to spend is on different tools and frameworks to take an idea or take even a prototype, as we see here, and to sit in the shoes of the user and ask a series of kind of repeatable questions to help judge and think about what is this user experience going to be? Are there any gaps in the experience that we really need to think about? Oftentimes we think of what's called like the happy path, right? So things go well, but we also need to plan and develop with understanding that things don't always go according to plan, and people think and interact with web, with web views and mobile apps in very unexpected ways. And so, so part of that will be taking a look at user feedback or analytics on some of the case studies that we'll bring in. And we'll also work as a team to strategize, well, what are, based on the feedback that we're seeing or some of, the analytics or journey behaviors we're seeing, what are some things that we could potentially do to strategize to solve some of those problems, reduce friction, get people to say yes to that purchase. And we'll be looking at a lot of the case studies too are going to be apps and websites and e-commerce sites that we all deal with as just consumers on a regular basis. So you don't have to come with any type of particular background. Just be yourself, and we look forward to contributing and learning along the way.
I'm talking and waving my hands on mute. Welcome to Zoom. So just want to unshare, realize that I'm staring at everybody, but it's a lot easier if we can all look at each other here. Chris, why don't we have you take that question too? So is there anything that, do students need to have an idea to come into your class or be prepared for anything?
No, not really. I don't assume that people will have thought too much about these things. That's kind of the point. Innovators often don't want to put on a business hat. Many of them are not really required to fit it, exactly on their head over time. But I would say that a lot of companies I've worked with over time would have been well served to think about these things a little bit earlier. And that's kind of what this is about, is to kind of help people issue spots so they are not looking back on with regret, and sometimes really expensive regret a year or two after they really got rolling. Not that you all are necessarily looking to go from this to be a CEO, COO, or whatever. Even if you remain in strictly in innovation, driving, design, thinking, make cool things kind of roll, that's great. But what we've seen time and again is companies that would have been in better position to grow, in better position to remain as a team if they thought a little more about some of these things a little earlier. And that's not to say that there's a parade of horribles by any means, but you can be sure that life is going to change for you and your team, and you want to be ready for it, either by having a project that turns into a company that you can sell and somebody else can carry on in your absence, or by knowing that maybe your third co-founder, and we've had all these things happen in real life, most of them here in Central Virginia, gets a deadly disease, becomes pregnant with triplets, gets their dream job at Google on the West Coast, has an uncle who passes away and leaves him a couple $1 million. Like, all these things happen, right? So the point is, if you get your structure right and you've got a little bit of planning and a little bit of paperwork and some intelligent issue spotting early on, you can deal with those and the project can continue and not sort of collapse under its own weight. So, it's a strategy class, really. So I think all you really need to bring is some curiosity and some thoughtfulness and some intention toward making your innovative projects commercially viable.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And Michael, anything that students, I mean, I've taken your class, so I kind of know the answer to this question, but I would like, for the sake of our audience, do students need to bring anything to the table to go through Scrum Master training?
No, really, just if you're working on any kind of project, this is applicable. It's not really directed toward team leaders or managers. We do focus really on the Scrum Master accountability. There's product owners and then developers within the teams. But we talk about how do you have those conversations, and then how do you as Scrum Master create the environment where you can have the high performing teams where you can start using all of the things that we're also talking about throughout the course.
Excellent, excellent, yes. And speaking for the other members of our cohort here, there isn't necessarily anything that you need to bring to the table. Again, it's excitement and engagement. We do have a question in the chat coming from David. David, the billing rates. So if you belong to another master's program at VCU, you pay the rate of your master's program. If you're a non-degree seeking student, you pay an elevated rate for the Davinci Center tuition. That you can find on the tuition calculator through financial aid. But yes, if you are part of another program, you will pay that rate. Yeah. Any other questions from our audience? I got to leave time. Sometimes questions take a little while to write in the chat. I've learned this through my first semester of virtual teaching. Don't be too impatient. But yeah, we're here for you all. I'm sure others would love to know the answers to your burning questions if you have them. Two, I'm going to pop I'll pop my email address into the chat. So you are welcome to email me, or I'm on the Davinci website. So if you do have questions that you think of afterwards, feel free to reach out. And if I don't know how to answer that question, I can connect with the faculty themselves who can help provide those answers. And there we go. It's in the chat. And actually the chat's not included in the recording, so I'll put it out there. You can see my name on the screen here. It's Schumacher, A-N, N is in Nicole, my middle name, at vcu.edu. All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions, then a very sincere thank you to, oh, wait, no, we got another one. Never mind. Sorry, false alarm. Is there a significant amount of outside work required in these courses? So I will let the faculty take that one.
For the Scrum Master course, it's going to be about an hour of work outside in preparation, and then you take a test online afterwards.
And the test is not that hard. I'm just saying. They put some trick questions in there, but Michael does a great job of leading you through all of that to make sure that you pass with flying colors.
For the intellectual property and kind of startup corporate basics thing I'm talking about, there's not much outside at all. We'll do some quick in-class sort of Zoom within the tool, within the Zoom polling kinds of things, just to kind of make sure everybody's awake and that I'm kind of hitting them. They won't be tricky, but like just to make sure we're basically focused on what we're talking about in that given session. And a minimal final, but like more quiz scaled than test scaled, just to kind of cover some of those basics again as a reminder at the end. And then a quick opinion thing, which will be answerable in a couple of paragraphs. But I mean, it's the kind of final that you'll probably be able to get to finish in 20-25 minutes.
For the UX UI course, I think a lot of this is going to be participation while we're together. There will be maybe some asks between our sessions to study or go find some examples of certain types of digital experiences to bring to the conversation for things that we plan to talk about, assess, evaluate, do some strategy behind. So I'm not bringing all of those examples to you. I'd like to bring some from the group for us all to take a look at with fresh eyes. So there will be some of that, and there may be some contribution to some kind of interactive activities that we share online, but not most of the time is hopefully spent together.
got a worksheet every week that everybody's gonna have to fill out, but you could do it in a Sharpie. So it's not super labor intensive. Hopefully it's thought intensive, but I anticipate if you spend 30 minutes before class thinking about the worksheet and pay attention in class, you'll get it all.
Great, thank you.
For prototyping, because I did show up late and I do want y'all to remember, because it's going to be a great class. We really want to see all y'all in it.
Yeah, we really do try to make sure that, you know, the time that you spend during the classes is really valuable, and we respect that there's, you know, outside life happening.
Yeah, definitely stays consistent. Susan, I saw you come off mute. Do you have a question for us? Might have been an accidental unmuting.
It was accidental. Thank you for asking.
No problem. No problem at all. And for those who are watching, who will be watching on the recording, a couple things came up in the chat. So our prototyping teacher here, Ben Lewis, put out there that if you would like to know more about the nature of his professional generalism, that his work is online at badcraftstudio.com. And you can learn more about Scrum at implementingscrum.com too. All right, any other questions?
I think you'll find Ben's site particularly useful if you have a Honda Element.
That's true.
It's a part of his
Really,
site.
if you have a discontinued Honda, we sell more stuff to you than if you don't have a discontinued Honda.
Yeah.
If you don't have a discontinued Honda, you might not be in our target market, which is complicated. I mean, that's not the best way to start a business, y'all. Being honest, Rager, right now.
Oh, thank you for that. Thank you, Chris, for exploring his website almost immediately. Fantastic.
It's good stuff. I like it.
Yeah, and it's good to have that added information, right? A little bit more context for who's teaching the classes and for the content that might be in them. All right. Any other questions before we wrap it up today? No? All right, a little awkward silence before we say goodbye. Well, thank you so much for our faculty and for our participants or our viewees for being here. Thank you for watching. If you do get this recording and watch it afterwards, we at the Davinci Center hope to hear from you. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to us. We are more than happy to engage with students and answer any questions you have. But thank you very much and have a wonderful day.